What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing this weekend? I like it. All right, all at the same time, you're all gonna yell out one thing that you learned this weekend. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I got it all. Cool. I'm glad that you all at least learned something. That's kind of the whole point of this weekend. Super excited to be here. My name's Carl. I am. There you go. Let me just test it. There you go. I am the student programs manager here, or not here, but at Unity. What does that mean? Basically, I manage a lot of the different things that we do in the education space related to students. So things like hackathons, game jams, student ambassador programs. I do things to help high schoolers and middle schoolers learn how to engage with STEM through the use of the Unity engine. Some of you may know me, some of you probably don't. If you need to get in touch with me, it's carld@unity3d.com. Please don't send me an email anytime soon about your hackathon because I'm not going to answer it right now. And if you want to tweet at me, it's Carl Domingo. That's probably the easier way to get in touch with me if you do want to send that. So just saying. Cool. If you have any friends that are interested in being a part of the program that I'm building, it's literally a year old, so it's very new. If you have any people that are doing a lot of VR work or making games or just interested in using Unity in general, please send them this link. Super appreciated and trying to help out all of your different schools with all of these different opportunities and programs. Let me just make this full screen. Nope, okay, well that works too. It's a good segue, perfect segue, awesome. Make sure the mouse is there, cool. So not too long ago, I actually used to be a deputy commissioner at the league and an MLH coach. How many of your events have I been to before? A few of you. So for those of you who I have literally never met, welcome, glad to have you be part of this room. If you need proof, I actually, this is my 6th Hackcon that I've ever been to. Literally, this is Hackcon 2, this is Hackcon 3, 4, 5, and then this is actually Hackcon EU. So like I've been to a lot of hackathons. I have done this for a very long time at this point. Long time ago, I actually used to be an organizer for this hackathon in upstate New York called BrickHack. I actually see that I have some of my students in the room, so it's super cool to see that they're here. And this was about, I want to say, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's been a really long time since then. I mean, I've seen a whole lot of different things happen in the hackathon community. I have since left to go do other things that still relate to students, which is pretty cool. But all of this experience has kind of culminated to the reason for my talk this weekend, because I think it's a pretty common thing, right? Like, how many of you in the room are alumni themselves? A few people? So it's kind of a good thing just to kind of keep in mind of ways that you can kind of help your hackathon while you're not even there, and ways that as an organizer at your actual school that you can create this engagement to support people. This all kind of stems from an idea that I had a long time ago. It's like a really simple math problem. So we'll dig into it. Basically, every year, you have people that graduate, right, from your hackathon. Say you have a group of 10, 5 people graduate, real life takes over, they move away, they get jobs. So time can be a really scarce resource. Everybody wants to go back to their hackathon and go mentor, but that's not realistic sometimes. I'm all the way in the Bay Area, and my hackathon is in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York. I can say that because I went there. But how can you maximize on the things that people can do, right? So a really simple thing that people can do, you can literally just have people donate $50 every month. It's not that much money at the end of the day. If you set up like a recurring donation system, or if you have like your own recurring bills, right, you kind of stop thinking about it at that point. The money just flows and it becomes less of a problem for you. $50 is literally, a night out at the bars. So you can just stay at home and play video games for a weekend or something, right? Like, it's not a lot of money. So you set up this kind of automated donation system. You have these 5 people that graduate. By the end of the month, you've actually made $250 from those 5 people that have just started donating money to your hackathon. Now, if you stretch that out even more, you actually make $3,000 over the course of a year. How many of you would $3,000 make an impact on your event? Quite a couple of people. You can even stretch that even farther, right? If you keep this system going, you have 5 organizers graduate every year. By the 3rd year, you have 15 organizers that have graduated. You've made $9,000 just from that 3rd year from all of these donations. How many of you would that make an impact on your hackathon? Every single person in the room. That is such a huge sum of money that can go towards things like actually building your community and actually supporting people. You can spend less time having to go and cold email sponsors because you've kind of built in this system to keep you sustainable, right? If you think about it, over those 3 years, you've actually made $18,000. And that's just from a set of people. Maybe it might be less than $50, maybe it might be more. Sometimes if you do donation systems through your company, they actually will do like donation matching every once in a while. So you might actually end up with even more money. So you never actually know. But this is just one system that you can use to actually make your hackathon successful. Now, the purpose of this talk is really to find ways that you can create some of these engagement systems to keep people coming back, to keep people participating in the things that you're doing. So we're going to go over a couple of things like reaching your alumni, sustaining relationships with alumni, and building your own community to make that sustainable system actually happen, right? So let's buckle up. Let's dig into it a bit. Why are alumni important? Why do you need alumni? Well, let me tell you a little secret. Is it playing? Aw. Oh, is that what? Oh, weird. So at your schools, there's a secret organization that has a lot of power. You may not know. Sometimes you hear about it, sometimes you don't. But there's definitely one point in your life where you learn about this place. There's like a very defining moment. So you've graduated, you've walked across the stage, you turn your tassel, and then you get that piece of paper, right? And then maybe a day, maybe a couple of weeks later, the phone rings and you pick it up. You're like, oh, I don't know. I think this is like a number from my area code. And you immediately know that somebody's asked you to donate money, right? This is like everybody's worst fear. This literally happens. How many of the alumni in the room does your alumni group like call you, right? This literally happens to every single.
Letters are the worst.
You get letters?
Yeah, letters.
Wow, I've never gotten a letter. I just get cold calls. Okay, see, you've blocked that number. It's smart. But jokes aside, this organization can actually do a lot for your hackathon. These people have a lot of pull all the way up to the top of your university, working directly under your university president. There are things like strategic plans that your school has that maybe is like a 5-year, 10-year plan for the school, where they're working on this kind of engagement to be able to support alumni. It's one of their biggest driving factors, right? Your school is only as successful as the people that leave it. So it can be a really powerful thing that you can turn like this nightmare of them calling you into an actual dream that can help support the students that you're working to help. I'll give you some insider information. I do a lot of alumni outreach for my school. I actually work directly with this organization. And it's a really interesting thing. Like I'll just go to random happy hours. I'll go to random talks that they do once in a while. And I'll talk to the people there. And they'll be like, oh, so like, what did you do at RIT? I was like, oh, I studied game design, but I actually started this thing called a hackathon. They're like, oh, I've heard of that. Is that BrickHack? I'm like, yeah, right? And then they just go on blathering about random stuff, and I stopped caring at that point. But basically, it's a really cool way that you can bridge that gap between people, right? Even people who literally you probably have never even met, like 10, 15 years out of college, these people have heard of this thing called a hackathon, and maybe they're not even in engineering or they're not computer science, right? That's just so powerful that you create this kind of engagement. So you can kind of break it down into this crazy pyramid scheme. This is a really good pyramid scheme, like not like getting money from you, but well, I guess getting money in a way, but going through the way that your alumni organizations try to get you engaged with the different things that you're doing, right? So starting all the way from the bottom and trying to get just that general reach, all the way to getting people to participate and go to your events, and then all the way up at the top, creating these opportunities for people to be successful, to people to lead the organization and help support all of the different communities that are there. If you're able to create systems that go through this pyramid, you will have so much opportunity to leverage a lot of the things that your alumni association is doing that they will be glad to go back up to bat for you. A really weird, interesting fact about alumni engagement is that engagement literally means anything. So even just donating that $50 every month counts as an engagement. Now, if you multiply that by the number of organizers that we had over the 12 months, that's 60 engagements over a year, right? Some alumni organizations are really hard fought to get 60 people to engage at an event that they do at some city. That's like an amazing thing that you're doing that literally requires basically no effort on your part as an organizer, requires no part on your own effort as an alumni, and helps to show that you're creating value for these people and they didn't even know it. So you can build in these systems to help make these alumni buy into the things that you're doing. Now, taking all of that into consideration, finding ways that the Alumni Association can help you, we'll get into some exercises that I want you to think about. So in your groups, I want you to think about the different places where you can engage alumni. Did you all throw around some ideas? You have some places of where you can find some of these alumni? Just start shouting out one at a time, not all together this time because I'm not actually going to be able to catch any of it. But just start shouting out places where you can find alumni.
Career fairs.
Career fairs. Okay? Conferences. LinkedIn. Facebook.
Google Plus.
Trying to put Snapchat.
Meetup.
We'll put social media.
Student club Slack channels.
Student club. Meetups.
Asking your question.
Classroom connections. Anything else? Career services.
Probably good. IEEE.
IEEE. Okay, it's kind of like a student club, but we'll throw together. Anything else?
Alumni Association.
Alumni Association.
The actual educators in your department.
Educators.
Carl, you're missing any.
What?
I can read.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not the
It's been a long weekend. It's been a long weekend. Anything else? Cool. So we'll go in and highlight some of these. This one's like a ringer, so that's not really fair, but we'll leave it. It's fine. That maybe, just general maybes. I like this. Like this and that. Huh. All very solid recommendations. Cool. Does anybody have any idea why I highlighted some of these things?
Are you going to talk about them?
Okay. Good catch. What's your name?
Harrison.
Harrison. I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm just kidding. Close. You're getting close.
Most likely.
Almost. I'll give you, all right.
So if they're mainly for career fairs, conferences, and meetups, if they're there, they're already interested, they're already engaged in some capacity, so that's your hook, taken care of for you, so your job is just like catch it.
Yeah, they're all very good. They're all very good ideas. There is one very key reason why I highlighted some and then underlined Alumni Association, because you kind of just gave away the thing. But so you want to leverage opportunities where you can work with your Alumni Association. Sorry, camera guy, I'm going to move around, but you want to leverage opportunities where you can leverage the Alumni Association do these things. So like career fairs are things that generally Alumni Association does. Meetups are things that they always do all the time. Classmate and educational connections sometimes have these interactions with the Alumni Association, probably a question mark. Conferences are a place where generally they try and do meetups whenever they know that a professor is going to go. Some of these things like Twitter, Facebook, social media in general, sometimes if you have a good alumni association, they'll have these things. Sometimes they won't. This is actually a nice little nugget that I'll leave behind. But all of these are ways that you can leverage what the Alumni Association has available, that you can work with them to be able to utilize these opportunities and utilize these connections to interact with these different bases of people. The thing that I like in particular is like, local meetups, in-person events are great ways that you create this engagement. I am a very verbal communicator. I'm terrible at writing, which is why none of your hackathon emails have been answered. And so I do really well when I go to these conferences and I go to these events to go meet these people. So you want to leverage the opportunities that you have with the Alumni Association to work alongside them or develop things for them if they don't have some of these things to help enable their success and to enable your own success. So some key takeaways, that's the wrong direction. Literally go ask your Alumni Association where they engage, what groups they have, what opportunities there are to actually interact with these people. Tell them about what your hackathon does. Some of the alumni people don't necessarily know all of the things that happen in the community, in the school itself, and so this is a way where you can sell the word of your hackathon, right? Like I literally just got a RIT alumni magazine the other week, and I was like, wow, they have like some of these interesting different student opportunities. They write articles about this stuff. It's a cool way that you can kind of share your story with the broader audience of people. So find ways that you can share your message either through the things that they're doing online or on the ground, or just ask to, if they have these groups, join them and actually participate in the conversation. So on to the next exercise. So you're going to go through what you're actually going to ask them for. So what are some things that you thought of that you could ask your alumni for?
Money, okay. It's always going to be the first thing.
Corporate recruiter connections.
Mentorship.
Be a judge.
Judging.
Perhaps you have some event events before, so you could ask for support on how to organize these events. Or like tips, maybe.
Oh yeah. Nice.
So not only like corporate connections, but connections to other companies.
Marketing.
Marketing.
Keeping a presence in the community.
Marketing.
Speakers.
Speakers.
Partnership.
Partnership. What do you get?
That way they're both benefiting from you and you're also benefiting from the fans.
Any others? No? All right, let's go through and highlight things. Obviously. Let's see. Some of that. This is a really good one. And then these things. And this one. So, can anybody see the trend again? Got it. All the secrets are gone at this point. The cat's out of the bag. So there are all these different things, right, that the Alumni Association is going to go through and already do, right? Like literally, the first thing I opened with is I got a phone call from my alumni group as soon as I graduated asking me to donate money. These are things that like they're already doing that you can find opportunities to actually, instead of you doing it all the time, you can ask them to do it for you. It's like, hey, when you're doing your cold calls, can you like mention the hackathon if it's like an engineering alum or something like that? Or they do like webinars sometimes where they'll have speakers come in, and so it's a cool opportunity where you can leverage them as a speaker or have them go do webinars for the entire community in general. Event attendance, also very important, so it's worth highlighting like these in particular, maybe a little bit of this. But having them actually come to do things on campus, so like somebody mentioned, like you're running an event just before the hackathon, right? Having them come in and speak to your group is a really great way to build in these opportunities that help to make the alumni look really good, make the Alumni Association feel really good, and also help your own community of people. So there's like a lot of like interweaving in there, which gives you a lot of opportunity to be able to give your Alumni Association a case for like, hey, these are the things that we're doing, and these are ways that we can kind of integrate these alumni into these activities and help support you and your different efforts. So trying to create those engagements, trying to create those quantifiable ways of participating in hackathons. One thing I will mention is like, obviously you all know this, cold emailing somebody with your sponsorship prospectus. It's not a generally great thing to do, so it's not something that you should really ask an alumni you don't know either. I'm glad to give the BrickHack kids my money because I know them very well. But like if like a random, actually, case in point, like a random club at RIT was like, hey, I see you do this thing and we'd love to have you like donate. I'm like, I have no idea who you people are, and I'm sorry. So you like work on building these actual relationships with people to help make some of these asks a little bit easier, right? Like somebody would love to speak in general if they're around and they have the time, but asking for money is like, it's like a big ask for some people. So make sure you're doing things where you can get valuable opportunities to bring people into the fold, have them engage, do talks, speak with people. I thought this was just a great GIF. I don't know if anybody saw the Apple keynote, but I just love that this is a thing. Actionable things that you can do. Ask if your alumni association does things like webinars that you can engage your speakers in. Find ways that you can have participation either by yourself or by alumni for meetups or happy hours or talks that happen on campus, right? These things happen literally all the time, every single week, sometimes in different places around the world. Find opportunities where they can do direct speaking for your own community. You know, these people do have this mentorship experience where they've been in the real world for a little bit. They have some perspective as to things that you don't realize or think about when you get out to the real world. And then, you know, throw in your hackathon and random spiels that they have that they're doing for people. There's literally like a million things that you could literally do and integrate into like all of these different moving pieces. So I gave you like a handful, but you know, the list goes on and on of ways that when you figure out what the Alumni Association is doing, how you can build into that or build things for them to make them more successful. So one last exercise, I'll give you another 2 minutes. How do you maintain engagement now that you've built this process, right? Of like, you know the things that you're gonna ask them for, different opportunities that they can do, and you know where you're reaching out to these people to find them and support them. Cool, so ideas of how you maintain this engagement.
An active social media presence.
Active, something like snaps, the agreement snaps. Mentorship? You have a question?
Mentorship.
Mentorship.
Holiday card. Holiday
Holiday.
card.
Wow. I like that.
We did that this year. It's not an email.
Oh, holiday cards.
We
Awesome.
said like thank you notes, like
I
text
thought that
message,
was
like
Oh, that's so cute.
Slack.
Slack get-togethers.
Get-togethers.
In the back.
inviting them outside of the hackathon, like for tech talk nights, for example.
Set aside specific travel reimbursement money to bring back alumni or organizers. You guys.
Collecting feedback from them to help make them feel like part of the process.
Feedback? Oh, sorry.
No, good. That's it.
I know that to bring more alumni into their hackathon, back every year, HackRU has an alumni dinner right before the hackathon.
Anything else? No? Okay, cool. One more. Yes, good call. Good call. You're already ahead of it. Some of these things, this one's where it gets a little bit more fuzzy, but this is where you kind of have to think outside the box to find opportunities. Sometimes you do one of these. I actually literally just got invited to an alumni dinner very recently, so like it goes to show that they actually are trying to work on these things, so you can literally go ask them if they're planning on this stuff, right? So a lot of these different ways that you can do engagement. Sometimes your schools might have social media. I probably should have question mark on that one. Get-togethers, meetups are things that they do, but things that you should also be doing as well. Alumni dinners, things that they can also be doing, so things that they can actually literally help you with and probably just give you money for, because why not? Why would they love to have a bunch of people come back, especially if they're all coming back for the hackathon, right? Things that I actually really liked, holiday cards, really good move, or thank you notes. Those are like really nice things to do. An idea I like to throw around is like doing a general monthly newsletter about like, hey, this is what people are doing at RIT. It's like, I got that RIT magazine, I like flipped through it for a little bit, just saw some random stuff, but it's a cool way to keep people engaged, especially, you know, if you have alumni that are donating like, I don't know, $50 every month, it's like, hey, this is what your money's being used for. It's like a nice way to help them stay engaged, keep them informed about a lot of the things that are happening on campus. So make sure you find ways that you can kind of build in these opportunities to regularly tie people in. It's always good to stay in the loop. I actually don't necessarily like the travel reimbursements thing. I think most of it kind of relies on the fact that if you tell somebody early enough, they'll plan for it. I have a bunch of alumni on my list that I try and bring back to my hackathon every single year, and they're like, oh, they didn't tell me about it until like a month ago. It's like, yeah, that's not enough time to plan for about anything. When you're an alumni, when you're a professional, your lives get a little bit hectic, and so it's hard to keep track. So giving ways that you can help them stay up to date with the holiday card, with thank you notes, by having social media presence with groups that you can actively keep them engaged, are just good ways that you can keep the information flowing. And granted, maybe some alumni won't always engage on some of these things, but at least it's a way that you can keep the information flow going back and forth. And that way it's like, hey, we're doing a talk next week. We're planning to do this thing. Maybe you have a local dev group and one of your alumni is part of that dev group. And they're like, hey, I would love to give a talk about this to your students. So it's just good ways to keep people in the loop about opportunities, activities that they can build in. It kind of stems all back into this thing, right? Like creating these systems where you go all the way from the bottom to the top, whether it's finding the people through just general reach, or finding ways that you can have them participate, or creating systems where they're actively engaged, creating your own alumni boards, having regular check-ins, doing phone calls with people. Like I will gladly answer the phone for like Wilfred over in the back there anytime he calls me. If somebody from the Alumni Association calls me, I probably will not answer unless I recognize the phone number. And so it's just good ways to create some of this really active engagement, right? Relationship building requires actual building. And so finding ways that you can integrate these people and sink into the opportunities that alumni associations have really ties it all together into ways that you can create some really valuable, strong relationships with all these organizations. So some actionable things that you can do, leverage these strong connections to create your online community after you've bought them into the ideas that you have, interweave the things that you do with the activities of the Alumni Association going all the way back to the first point. Create a mailing list, because I just like mailing lists. Granted, I'd probably stop reading them after the third one, but it's still, I get it in my inbox, I don't unsubscribe. And develop your own kinds of engagement systems that you can kind of build in and tie everything together. It's like one of those, like, you ever watch those like mystery movies where they have like the dots and all the strings tying things together? These are the strings that you're trying to tie together. So, why are alumni important? Didn't I put that up there already? Actually, there's a real reason why alumni are important, and I think maybe you kind of caught a hint of it during the actual talk itself. But one of the things to remember is that at the end of the day, this community and group of alumni are people like you. Literally, this is Velazar from DevPost. Eventually, you will spend so much time into school, into hackathons, that you forget that at the end of the day, you're gonna leave school. You're gonna go get jobs. You're gonna do something amazing, right? Like I worked at MLH, I ended up at Unity. And so use these opportunities to kind of create systems where you can help bring opportunity back to these students, whether it's small things like donating or big things like spending time, giving talks, supporting the community itself. Once you're done with your 4 years, right, you're gonna graduate, you're gonna go out into the real world, and you're gonna do something that's really valuable. The big thing to never forget is that these are the people, that's Velazar once again, these are the people that have sunk in a lot of time in you, and you've sunk in a lot of time in them. And it's not, it's kind of a loss to just walk away and call it at the end of the day, I'm done with the hackathon, I'm gonna go on and go do some cool stuff. Have them be a part of the cool stuff that you're doing. Make it your personal mission to help these people. Because I think if there's one thing that we all know as hackathon organizers, is that organizing a hackathon is really difficult. And you don't want to make that as difficult for the people behind you. And so creating these systems and creating these engagement opportunities, building these communities is a way to build into that system. I remember like one thing that, I've been doing this, I've been to 6 Hackcons. Hackcon 2, I would talk to people and they'd be like, yeah, like I'm gonna go like internships and I'm gonna go get a job, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go help out the hackathon. Literally, I think most of the people at Hackcon this year that still engage with hackathon community are sitting in this room. It gets pretty difficult. Like I can even say so for myself. That's why I'm really bad at answering email right now. Life gets hectic. Life gets busy. Sometimes you get thrown around all over the place. Sometimes you move across the country. And so it can be really easy for your personal life to really get away from the things that you want to be doing. And so by creating these systems where instead of emailing them once a year to sponsor the hackathon, you have them just create this donation system. It comes out of their pocket, they don't even notice. Or asking them to go back and mentor, that's like a lot of weight, but creating these newsletters where you can actively engage them and keep them in the loop are great ways that you can start building this community for yourself. Because one day, at the end of the day, you're gonna graduate, you're gonna go out into the real world, and you're gonna be doing these kinds of things. And so by introducing these systems, making that Facebook group, making that newsletter, finding ways that you can keep people in the loop are ways that you can make them still be a part of that community and still contributing to the things that you're doing. So that was my talk. And anybody have any questions?
So are there any major turnoffs as an alum that you see from student organizations that you think like, you know, if an org did this to you, you would be like, nah, I never want to like deal with it?
I think a lot of it goes into general attention to detail and care, right? Like, for example, that organization that I literally had no association with, they just kind of emailed me, and I could tell when I read that email that it wasn't personalized, and that's the first outreach that they ever had to me. I'm like, I actually do not care what you're doing. I know that you just got my email from some list somewhere. And so putting in that care, even if it's just the first email, it's like really getting to know somebody is how you make that step, right? And by doing things that it's like, we're all smart people. We all know what a canned email looks like. Like, don't send canned emails to people that you're trying to build actual relationships with. So, I believe Darpin or Tim had a question?
So just speaking from myself and all the alumni that I know from my school, we actually don't like the Alumni Association because, especially donating to it, because their goal is to, you know, raise money for the general benefit of the school.
Yeah.
But all of us, we had like our own niches, our own clubs that we want to donate like directly to or like help directly. And so none of us really like donating to the Alumni Association itself. So my question is like, how can I set up, or how can we set up systems or some sort of way for our alums, or like the alums of our like, organizing groups or our clubs to be able to donate directly so that we know the money doesn't like go to somewhere where we don't want it to, but directly help these causes that we want them to.
Yeah, I mean, so there's certain things you can do. I mean, this entire framework exists within the realm of the Alumni Association. You can easily pull out the Alumni Association and do things without them, but if you have these places where you have a very strong Alumni Association that is very engaged and really trying to help people, it's a good opportunity to plug in these opportunities, but there are ways that you can create, you know, like a donation system, right? You can literally just set up a PayPal where you just have all of the organizers have access to that, and they can just pull it straight into whatever account that they use to manage the money for the hackathon, and then use that to spend for whatever they want to use. Or if you want to go the extra step and like set up like an actual like non-profit or like an LLC or something like that, it's like, you know, putting in an actual donation method so that way.
That's what we were thinking, because dealing with the financials right now, we're doing it through the school for. So if we had like unsolicited donations coming from our alums, like we might get in trouble. And so we were thinking of setting up some sort of like non-profit fund or whatever that helps directly with our causes that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I believe Darwin said that that's what.
We have like BrickHack, we set up a non-profit, saying you can donate to it, and
Yeah.
a lot of people like try to do some charity over the year as well, so they can like donate directly to us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can chime in real quick, I actually went through this exact process you guys were talking about. I'm an alumni.
What's your name, where are you from?
Oh yeah, sorry, it's Jesse. I was Hackcon but now Hackcon VI, non-MLH, but still doing hackathons. So if you do set up a PayPal or something, your alumni foundation is going to get really, really mad at you. We
That's
tried
what we
doing
figured
that.
too.
So on our form, I don't know how flexible, like, you know, form submissions, but for ours, when they went to go put in the credit card information, there was like a little drop-down menu of where you want those funds to go, so they could choose like computer science or whatever. We just asked them, like, can you add a line for hackathon? So for us, it was hack costume, and like they just added it to the drop down like the text field input, and then we knew that money was getting
Also,
directly routed to
you
where.
actually talked to the alumni.
Yeah,
to add that option.
it's a hard conversation because like they want that money, but if you go and say like, hey, like we have alumni that we know that want to donate, can you work with us in setting up some kind of flexibility in your system? Because it's also a backend system, right? It might be like 20 years old, but someone has the power to go in there and choose where they want to route that money. So that's an option if you want to explore. I know the chat more after if you got that more.
For example, for my school, it's so easy. Literally, I can put whatever name I want, and they'll figure it out from there, like in the forum. But it is a good opportunity to like create some of that collaboration.
Such as just for my school. It's
Yeah,
always.
it probably does.
Yeah, probably. But most of the time, like all the alums association, see that the alumni association would just like, you know, give the money to like the sports team, which our school is known for.
Yeah.
We don't want that our money to give.
Yeah,
Have you
make sure there's direction.
Yeah.
don't want to derail too much, but have you sat down with like your alumni board foundation?
I mean,
folks?
I just became an alumni, so
Okay.
I've
Oh, yeah,
not
sorry.
delved deep into it.
I guess ask the next folks to sit down and
Yeah.
have that conversation with them, and then they'll be able to help like collaborate. Because most of the time they're happy to do that. You just have to ask them and not do it without telling them. That's when I get upset.
What was your name? Where are you from? What was your name? Where are you from? And then Irfan is looking at his phone. What is your name? I don't know your name. Where are you from?
My name's Irfan, I'm from Manhattan.
I'm Dorfman, I'm from BrickHack, Alumni.
I'm Tim. I'm from Hackcon VI, University.
Any other questions? Everybody find that helpful in some way? Yeah. Awesome. Good to know.